Look, an old person taught you something about the computer.
I never called you an old person.
I did.
I call myself
I did.
an old person.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Oh, that was loud. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all. Holy cow. I'm on the work session. This is going to go well. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
It's right in front of me. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have a huge crowd tonight for the resident comments and questions. Here, we don't have any of those. We are going to go right on to number 5.1, Mr. Merrick and Employee Service Awards. Elkie, stand up, girl.
So it's my pleasure to announce that we're celebrating tonight Kathy Elkie's 10-year anniversary with the city of Carver. She had it in April, is that? April 30th.
April 30th.
Wow.
The mayor and I had lunch with Kathy on Friday. One of the things that we remarked to Kathy, and I think everyone would agree, is that she's an instrumental part of our organization. And in the time that I've been here, I've never once doubted the accuracy and her commitment. And it's just with what she deals with our finances, that's so reassuring and so uplifting to know that that part of our operation is in good hands. And so I'm happy to congratulate Kathy on 10 years.
Well, and I would also like to add that, not only accuracy, but timing. It's never been late. It's always been exactly what we needed. And when's the last time that you were in any organization that an outside auditor came in and said, A, not only is everything on time and perfect, but B, every time they make the recommendation that we switch out and we have, what's the term? Safety concerns where we
Segregation
have
of powers.
segregation of powers. And they all say, and you know what, you should have more than Kathy, but you're okay with just Kathy.
They make allowances for smaller organizations.
I know, but they always say that you're doing just fine with Kathy. Every one of them never points to saying, let's get someone else in here to help her.
And she's also coined the phrase, instead of saying a demerit, if you screw up, you get a demerit.
A demerit. Demerit.
I once lost a receipt, and so I received a demerit.
Well, we appreciate it. Yes.
Thank you, Kathy.
Get right over here in the middle, girl. This is like a girl shake. You hold the other side. Hold the other side of the fire. It's heavy. Now, Frankie.
I can't see your head. You gotta move it.
That's perfect.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we at lunch, we talked about the fact that we can't wait for 20 years, and she said, "Can I get a picture back in 20 years?" Yes. Alki, you're the bomb. We appreciate you greatly.
Thank you.
And every time I go to a meeting that is approved, I have to bring back the agenda page from like the Regional Council of Mayors. And I got to the point where now I just take a picture of it with my notes and stuff on it. And 3 out of 4 times I can't see the date. I have to retake the picture and get it back because we're following every rule. Good. I know.
That's how it works.
Yeah. Start doing it better, Webb. All right. 6.1, Truth and Taxation. Mr. Merrick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the city's annual Truth and Taxation presentation.
Thanks, Kathy.
It's essentially the culmination of many months of work between council and staff preparing for the 2018 general fund budget, and so I'll hop into it. There we go. So what is truth in taxation? It's essentially just an opportunity for residents to participate in the city's budget process. The Carver County sends out a statement to all property owners within the county and specifically to the city, and it's an opportunity for folks to be educated on how property taxes are determined, understand our local government budgeting process, and encourages residents to participate. So in anticipation, in addition to the statement that we received, we create a residents' budget guide on the city's website. We posted some information out on Facebook and Twitter to also get people involved. I'm sure that we also have folks watching tonight. This PowerPoint is not working. So, all right. Bear with the
Are
technology.
we having technical difficulties?
You want me to run that? Don't swear into the microphone. Do you, in the meantime, let's
We open the public?
let's make a motion to open the public hearing, and then we'll go through your presentation in the meantime.
I will make a motion that we open the public hearing.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Councilmember Monroe and seconded by Councilmember Henry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone feel like making a motion there?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion on the consent agenda and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Did you get who made the motion in the second?
I have Monroe, Councilmember Monroe, and then Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. Ms. Sanzaiden, would you like to enlighten us on the 2018 fee schedule? And if you're not ready, if you need the technology, please just let me know. We're just trying to...
Yeah, absolutely. I just have one slide, so I'm just going to read off the council memo. So this is something that staff reviews every fall. We go through the fee schedule and take a look at what fees are charged by the city. And then we recommend changes in the fee schedule that you'll see identified as to what we're recommending for the following year. And I just want to call to your attention that the Planning Commission also reviewed the building permit fees, which had to do with land use matters, at their November 16th meeting, and they are recommending approval. And the changes were identified, either highlighted in yellow and or red in the attached fee schedule. And if it is adopted by the council this evening, the proposed fees would then go into effect January 1 of 2018. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Well,
It's 104.
find our fee schedule, because my,
All right, I'm going to wait till everybody's there. I know Courtney's
Page
there
104.
because she got me there.
Why can't I get?
So we've all had a chance to take a look at this. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with any of the fee schedules as put before us?
Glenn's having technical issues now. No, Glenn's down. Okay, Vicki, so I noticed that all of the hall and gym fees were taken out, which obviously makes good sense.
All in gym
Hall and
fees.
gym, because we don't have that anymore. No. Do we have Do we have stated what the fees for us to use the elementary school will be?
We have not gotten to that point
we
as
haven't.
of yet.
Okay.
But when we do, we can just amend the fee schedule.
Correct.
Excuse me, did you say when,
Don't we have an agreement where we get to use certain amount of time up at the gym at the elementary school?
we get 10 hours of priority scheduling, but the district has their own fee schedule for the use of the gym.
Also, our residents would pay them.
Yeah, so the priority scheduling is for programs that we have through Chaska Recreation, but someone couldn't come to the city to rent the elementary school. They'd have to go directly to the district.
Okay, but they can rent it. They can go to ask to rent time, but it would just be through the school district?
Correct.
And where would someone go, do you know, to do that?
This is called the district office.
Okay.
Or community education does a lot of their scheduling as well.
Okay. Do we have any idea what their fees are? I don't expect you to know.
We
but
do
I
actually, I don't have it on hand, but we did at one point get a copy of their fee schedule. It's
Okay.
based on, it's kind of similar to ours. If you're a community group, you're a level 1, they have like 4 different categories.
Okay. Do any of our community groups get any free time at the elementary school? Is there any free categories?
I couldn't tell you offhand.
Okay.
We can look into that and,
Yeah, just information reasons. Not-
the one thing I will point out as it relates to the fee schedule, just as a reminder, we typically would look at water and sewer rates and connection fees with our fee schedule, but we've decided to hold back on that until we have the utility fees or utility rate study completed by Steve McDonald, and then we'll be coming back to you in early winter of 2018 to discuss those options with the council.
Mark, did you review all of the building fees and everything was fine with you?
Yes, me and Brett had a discussion. A lot of our surrounding communities have increased their fees over the last number of years. What we're under right now is a 1997 Uniform Building Code permit schedule or fee schedule. Most of our cities are probably at 5 to probably 15% above that. We're just proposing to go up 3%.
All right. And you're fine with that?
Yep.
Both of you? Okay.
Vicki, could you talk about Carver Place a little bit? And I see that there's the class 1 and 2s. And can you just talk a little bit about the differentiate between who those are? And I see that it went up from 2 free a month to 3 free a month. And I don't have any issues with that. I'm assuming that that's groups like the Lions and Funky Minds and things like that.
Correct. We did not make any changes to the classifications whatsoever, and some organizations are definitely, no charge. And then we also have some that are allowed to have 1 free per month, and then they are charged after that. But no classification changes have been made, at least to the policy at this point. And we were just looking at the fees that were charged.
Okay. And then I'm looking at the class 3 and 4. So 3 would be just a resident, right? Just a resident who would come in to rent, not a part of any group. Is class 3 and class 4 is a non-resident?
Actually, 3 and 4 basically are to do with different classifications, and then there's a resident and a non-resident rate based on the classification, from what I'm remembering. I apologize, I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
When we looked at the fees, have we had anyone come in to rent at these rates for those full days that are the $300 and the $500? Have we had any of those come in?
We really haven't, I think, because of the space. Right now, we are currently just looking at Carver Place, and it is a relatively smaller place compared to what we've had, I guess, availability to prior. So we'll have to revisit those once we have a new community space, but for now, I guess we haven't looked at the classifications and doing anything with those, and the city council just adopted what we had for the church here. and we applied that to Carver Place. So we're still using the same policies, procedures, and fees. We're not making any
Sure.
changes to that.
I was more looking at the pricing of it to see if the pricing was correct to go with the 3 and the 500 for Carver Place. I don't know how much we might get asked to rent if it was a little bit less, since that space is rather small and you can't have any kind of large, get-togethers in there. But that maybe that 300 is just a little bit high.
Right, I know that we had some discussion about that just at the staff level, and we just decided at this point to keep the policy what it was. Again, what was taken, I think, I'm going from memory here, but I'm thinking the city council adopted the policy and fees that we had for what was previously Church by the River and now city council chambers, and then just applied that to Carver Place. Am I remembering that correctly, Brent?
Yes. It's certainly the council's purview that you could reduce that rate to what you thought was more fitting.
Are we advertising anywhere that it is available for rent, or are we just be more reactive and if somebody asks us?
We haven't been advertising for the sake of it's really our only spot for community groups, so we're trying to kind of keep that place for that. It's been fairly successful in that regard, but we haven't advertised it for like birthday parties or anniversaries or anything to that extent. But our local homeowner groups, Boy Scouts, Funky Minds, Lions, the baseball group, they've all been using it. So it's then along with our own functions, it's been scheduled quite consistently.
Well, it looks like they do have a cheaper option if they wanted to do 4 hours or less. It was just a large gap between 4 hours and then the full day rate, so.
Right, and that was one of the changes that we did make at the staff level. We were talking about 3 hours is really a short window when you're talking about setup, having the event, and then cleanup, and we extended that to the 4 hours. That was one of the changes that we thought we could make in the interim here. And just based on the types of calls that we have received in regard to people, Brent mentioned about, we haven't really advertised for birthday parties and showers and those types of things, but we have had phone calls, and we have been able to accommodate those, although it hasn't been, I guess, a huge number. But we feel that the 4 hours would give them some more flexibility there.
Yeah, I think the 4 hours is a good idea.
Are we done with that part
am.
yet? I have a question concerning the change in name of Church by the River to council chambers. Why are we doing that?
So I think we've been doing that for probably the last 6 months or so. I think we talked about it at a work session. There seemed to be some confusion about where our council chambers were and where the Church by the River was, so we just adopted to call this the council chambers. We changed the sign out front.
It says council chambers out there?
It does say council chambers now.
Wow, I'm not very observant, I guess. I'm just a little, I mean, the name of this building is Church by the River, you know? So, why couldn't it be both?
It can be. I mean, I think people call it Church by the River. I mean, we call it.
That's not what, I mean, that's not just what people call it. That's the name of this building. That's what Carver, Minnesota named it.
Oh,
I like Church by the River also.
again, the
I
council.
don't remember ever just, I mean, I must not have been here, so.
If the council wants to change it, you certainly can do that.
I would rather keep it council chambers at Church by the River, so that when we actually
Yeah, that'd
move,
be fine with me
that
too,
we
because,
actually move our council chambers, then it stays Church by the River and it's back to what it was.
I think that's a very good idea.
I'm happy
Let's
with
just
that.
not do a new sign again. It says council change.
Well, and I mean, in fairness to the why they did it, it was consistency, and as a city, it's sometimes
I just
hard,
don't remember
yeah.
discussing it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we
We
must
did.
have, but.
All right, any other questions on the fee schedule? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 09-2017.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Henry, seconded by Councilmember Mock. Any further discussion? Thank you for your efforts on that. I know it's not always easy to put together, so it is appreciated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's head back over to where we have an open public hearing. Are you ready to go, Mr. Merrick?
Yeah, let's take another crack
Let's
at
give
it
it a
here.
whirl.
So what is truth in taxation? Again, to enhance or create a kind of a relationship with residents and property owners and the city on how their property taxes are determined, understanding our local budget process, and encouraging folks to participate in the process. And so this meeting, this meeting is really an opportunity. This meeting is really an opportunity for folks to come out and hear about how that property tax system is created. Let's just maybe skip that slide and see if we can go. So the first slide was a picture of the property tax statement that folks received. In the upper right-hand corner, what people should really look at is there's a valuation from their 2017, or basically the estimated market value of their home, to 2019. And so oftentimes when people get that number, they are concerned about how that was created or calculated, and they come to this meeting thinking, well, this is an opportunity for them to dispute that. And you can do that by going through the Carver County Assessor's Office. Angela Johnson is the Carver County Assessor, and so if you have a question about your value or how that was calculated,
So
they're really your best
I just
resource.
want to make sure that we accentuate that point, that the city does not come up with the evaluation of your home and the number of what they put for a taxable value. The county assessor's office does, and that's where Angela Johnson is sometimes on our screen.
But they won't deal with that except in the spring. I mean, you can call them now, but it's not going to do any good because they don't deal with valuations except in the spring.
well, they'll talk to you, but
Yeah, but I mean, they won't change anything.
right. Can we, I hate to do this, but can we recess for like 5 minutes to
Sure.
give me a shot to
Sure.
kind of rededo this here? Thank you.
Can I get a motion to recess first?
I'll make a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
Second.
Got that? Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Recessed.
This we can get new ones.
Our iPads aren't working right.
Must be that damn Sasquatch.
I'll make a motion that we reopen the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is our annual Truth in Taxation.
Again.
Take 3.
Or it's our tri-annual Truth in Taxation presentation for the third time. So what is Truth in Taxation? It's an opportunity for residents to kind of learn about our local property tax system, how our budget's created, and really it's kind of an open way of trying to engage residents in our budgeting and property tax system. So folks got Truth in Taxation statements. We've done some stuff on our website, Facebook, and Twitter. So here's a copy of kind of the top half of your Truth in Taxation statement. There's a sample statement. Here you can see that this home, their value, estimated market value, was $246,100 in 2017. Went up to $260,000 in 2018. You can see the homestead exclusion. That's replaced the homestead credit, and later on in the presentation I can go through that. But that after that calculation is the taxable market value, and that's really used to create what amounts to be your tax capacity. So the residential homestead rate is 1%, so they'll take 1% by your taxable market value, and they do a calculation there. So you can see your proposed tax. That includes city, county, school district, Met Council, and some other various taxing districts like metropolitan, mosquito control. One of the things that folks often, when they come to a truth in taxation hearing, they'll want to talk about their valuation issues. There's a kind of a open book process in the spring of the year where folks can participate with the assessor's office to contest their value. But the assessor's office does take questions throughout the year and can talk to specific property owners if they have questions or concerns about their value, so you could contact Angela Johnson in the Carver County Assessor's Office. One of the things that I think can be challenging to the property tax statement is just kind of understanding it. And so here you can see kind of the breakdown. It's kind of similar to if you received your Excel, CenterPoint, and Comcast bill all in one. So we have, even though they're three separate pieces, they're all mailed together, but each of them are independent of one another as far as what their needs are. And so you'll see the top is the Carver County portion, and there's the city, District 112, again, Metro Special Taxing District, and then other taxing districts, most commonly Metro Mosquito Control and others. But you can see that the red is the 1145 was the 2017 property taxes for this individual property, and then 1172 for proposed 2018. So that was based on the calculation that they did after receiving the preliminary levy that the City Council adopted in September. So the property owner here has noticed that the council will be holding a public hearing on the truth in taxation on December 4th in the council chambers at Church by the River at 109 Main Street East in Carver.
Well done, well done. I saw what you did there.
Thank you.
So when looking at it, and this is something that I think we as staff overlook in communication to residents, so I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about it. But really, the city functions as two separate businesses. One is the general government arm, or what we call the general fund. The other is the utilities, which we call enterprise funds. So the general fund is made up, our revenue sources, our state aid, fees, and permits. Property taxes is just over 80% of the general fund revenue source. But it pays for all the things that folks see on a day-to-day basis. So elections, building inspections, our loan payments, engineering, fire, police, legal, etc., our buildings, street maintenance. That's the general fund. It can be confusing at times to think of your utility bill as a function of paying your taxes, but the utilities, so your water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater, which is the storm drains, the storm water ponds, and the conveyance of the pipes to move that water around, is the enterprise funds, and those are paid through by fees and charges aside from your property taxes. And then when we start talking about our utility rate study, that's an exercise in looking at what our costs are and then what we have to charge in order to run those systems. And so your monthly utility bill and then a connection fee that's typically paid at the time of development funds those three through those three portions: sanitary sewer, stormwater, and water. So getting into the general fund, our revenue overview, we typically budget conservatively for our revenues. We're expecting 50 housing starts now, depending upon how fast some of these new developments occur in 2018 and after they get through the planning process and do road construction and utility construction, that number could go up. We did not put in revenue for the senior housing project at 926th Street, but if that does come in, we'll have that as a revenue source, but we'll also have to then more than likely amend our expenditure side. We'll have to bring on additional hours for our part-time building inspections to handle that. And frankly, with the housing, if we increase our housing starts, that'll again trip the trigger for additional inspection hours. At one point, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we were thinking that we were going to have a full-time inspector again. We're inching closer to that, but with the ability to kind of monitor that through permit applications, we'll be able to, we don't have to really jump in to hiring a full-timer. We don't want to do that and then have the bottom drop out and then be stuck with a full-time person that's committed to our community and then have them feel like their job may be in jeopardy. Local government aid has increased from $84,000 to $111,000. The proposed budget also shows a drawdown from the Special Capital Project Fund, so that's been what I'd call surpluses from previous budget years. So we're trying to use that to mitigate some of the impact of the tax levy. And so we've tied that to $25,000 for the Jonathan Carver Parkway Corridor Study, $22,000 for the Carver Place lease and related, and then about $12,000 for public services capital. And what we were trying to do is tie that to one-time costs so that you don't get used to using that special capital project fund, because you really like to tie your ongoing costs to consistent sources of revenue. And so here's a breakdown of our proposed revenues. Again, 80% in property taxes, followed by fees, licenses, permits, aids and grants, and then fire contracts. And that'll be a number that you'll continue to see go down. We had a fire board meeting last week with Councilmember Mock and Councilmember Johnson, and we explained that per the formula, it's based on calls, population, and I'm drawing a blank on the third one. I think number of households. And so from that calculation, our numbers our portion of the fire department budget is going to surely go up based on the amount of growth that we're expecting, and the township's numbers are going to go down. And so we'll start to see that fire contract number go down. We're just above 100,000, but it's probably in the incoming or upcoming years, it's going to drop below 100,000. So something we'll have to navigate into the future. 2018 expenditures, public services at 24%, followed by debt service, admin and fire department, combined building inspections and planning, because we're expecting to hire that, or have proposed to hire the city planner, and there'll be a function of that position that's going to be doing plan review on building permit applications. So we combine those two. General government gets into elections, auditing services, some of the kind of the miscellaneous items, and then that's followed by law enforcement, engineering, and recreation. Our debt service, so proposed for 2018, we have 618,000, so that's an increase from the 510,380 from 2017. We would like to point out that the 2011 A's, which is the Levi Griffin Road project, that we have enough revenue in the debt service fund to fund our annual debt service payment. But if we don't have any additional development along that Levi Griffin corridor, the TIF, the tax increment district along that stretch will have been sunsetted, and we'll have to levy $106,000 to make that debt service payment going into the future. There are what I'll call deferred assessments on the balance of those properties out there. So the Llano, the JCP property, and the Oppidan property, as they come in and be annexed, there are assessments that they'd pay, and then that would go toward payment of that debt service. And if all of those debt service payments were paid, we could cover the complete debt service. But until that happens, and they're not compelled to come into the city until they have a development, the city's property tax base is going to have to cover that debt service payment until that additional revenue comes in. And there was I think, question at the last workshop. So the Downtown West project that the council just had the special assessment hearing on, this is our first year for that debt service payment. So that's the 2017 A's at $103,628. The Jonathan Carver Parkway Corridor Study, this is something that there's been a number of open houses on. We're continuing to work on this with WSB in Carver County. $25,000 in 2018 with the final payment in 2019. And again, this is being funded from the drawdown from the Special Capital Project Fund. Public services equipment, $30,000 contribution, $40,000, $10,000 share to the general fund. And so again, the other businesses of the city are paying for the balance of that pickup truck. Same with the telescoping forklift. If the council or anybody has questions again about those capital equipment purchases, Brian Skoke's on hand to answer those. Full-time personnel, the draft shows union and non-union employees receiving a one-step increase of 2.75%. That's for eligible employees. We do have one employee that's at the top of the scale, and we'll just be getting the CPI index. The council at their last meeting approved a pay scale increase of 2% based on the consumer price index, and so nearly all the employees would receive the pay scale increase and the step, which amounts to be about $40,000 of an impact over pay 2017. The council also approved a change in health insurance providers for employees, which is a 9% increase, but there was a change from Blue Cross Blue Shield to Health Partners. Health Partners to Preferred One. I'd say one of the primary initiatives within the 2018 budget is the hiring of a full-time planner. It was kind of initially discussed during the city's strategic planning effort. The budget appropriation in total is about $95,000, so that includes salary, insurance, office supplies, training, computer, etc. The pay grade for that position is about $67,000 to $84,000. The city did spend about $98,000 in consulting planning services in 2016. There was an additional $18,000 that was passed through for a total of $116,000. But again, this is really an effort to really kind of amp up the city's, not that we are getting a lesson with consultant, but we'd have an on-site person every day to handle planning issues and kind of get into some of their essential duties, so they'd assist and facilitate the development process, administer the Heritage Preservation Commission and Planning Commission boards, prepare agendas, provide information to residents and developers. That's I think a real critical piece when we have folks that will want zoning and land use information. Mark and I kind of tag team that effort, but if it gets real detailed, we kind of have to rely on Cindy, and so having somebody on site to be able to help residents right then and there will be helpful. Code enforcement, on-site development inspections, and then something that we really think can be kind of a value-added piece is communications and resident engagement, helping out with those efforts, and then grant writing. So we'd be looking to start that position in March of 2018. The fire department, a contribution of $17,000 to their capital fund. Proposed increase of $100 to their relief, taking that from $2107 to $2207 per year of service. Based on the auditor's comments, that doesn't require any additional city contribution. The investments and the money that's been in the fund can pay for that. There's also a proposed increase in the training and on-call pay from $1075 to $1150. There isn't any capital expenditures planned for 2018, but the department will want to begin a discussion and a conversation with the council and the fire board about the purchase of a engine tanker for about $650,000. That's included in their 2019 CIP, and so they've started to prepare a presentation on that. And so sometime early in 2019, the council is likely to see that. The plan is to bring it to the fire board first, which the council has 2 reps on, and get everyone comfortable with the topic, and then eventually bring it to the council for a discussion. Sheriff's Office, this is pretty much mirrors our 2017 package with the Sheriff's Office, a 40-hour-a-week town cop. Been notified that Larry Lassard has been put into Carver for 2018, so that I think is good news for everyone. Contracted services is up 5% to $198,000 and change. We do fund through this budget portion the Steamboat Days service throughout the weekend at $4,000, and participation in the Metro Drug Task Force for $2,500. Other noteworthy items, and I heard a couple of rumblings that our iPads aren't working that swiftly, so we're looking to upgrade the existing iPads to an iPod Plus. We're hoping that provides the council with an ability, because these would be bigger, basically kind of an 8.5 by 11 screen to look at plans. We're suspending the intern program. We think we'll go back to it, but just wanted to be in a position where we're not always continually adding, that we're taking on. And with some of the transition that we're going to be going through, hopefully this spring and summer with temporary offices, didn't think that we could really dedicate the time to kind of nurturing an intern. It's not really fair to them to just kind of set them in a cube and say, go to work on this stuff. We'd like to put them in a position where they can learn and we can dedicate the time. We're also proposing a part-time admin assistant that would start in January in the clerk's office. Park dedication plan, trail maintenance, which is a new item. We haven't really on a consistent basis budgeted money to maintain our trail system. We've put money in for new trails, so this is a kind of a piece to that. The Chaska Recreation Program is the same amount as 2017. That's a 3-year contract. The same number is in for 2019 19. There was a comment during the work session. One of the things I'd like to do, I know the city of Chaska is going through the hiring process for a new Parks and Recreation director, and so once that person comes on board, I'd like to have them and then our programmer come out to a work session and discuss expectations with the council to maybe kind of flesh out some of the things that the Parks Commission and the council might be concerned with, and we can follow up on that if the council has additional interest in that. One of the other pieces that we're excited about is a file management system. Going to we have a ton of file cabinets in the building, and looking at hopefully our new space, wanting to preserve as much real estate as possible for people working, and so switching into that from paper to electronic, and some of our enterprise funds would be funding that effort as well. So here's a background of our general levy history going back to 2013. And when I show this, it's not necessarily a representation of the property tax. Sometimes people, at least the feedback that I got, really get concerned about the amount the levy is going up, but it's kind of similar to any growing family. If you have, it's like looking at your grocery bill. If you have, 2 kids and it's at $100, and then you add 5 more kids, it might double. But understanding that you have more mouths to feed, and well, that's kind of the situation where Carver's population is growing. There's more streets to plow, there's more utility bills to process, and so this is really a representation of a growing and healthy community. Our debt service levy history, going back to 2014, you can see that steady increase. And then our total levy. So the council at your next meeting will determine a final levy, and that's the combination of the general fund levy and the debt service levy. And here shows a tracking of that history back to 2014. So here's, again, through 2014, you can see the levy changes from 4.2 to 2.2. And we're at a 9.2% increase over 2017 for a total of $2,369,873. But a big piece, and it kind of gets into the growth part that I mentioned, was the new construction and market value change, because that really is going to dictate how your levy impacts your local property tax payers in the community. And so based on our growth numbers and our estimated market values or taxable market values, you can see, and certainly a ways to go, but you can see steady improvement as we build more capacity through market value, that our tax rate has been going down. You'll see some communities, and I believe Carver was one of them, where it's been up in the 60s and 70s as your community is smaller, and there's still that finite amount of services that you need to provide for your residents. And then on the table on the right, you can see how we compare to other cities in Carver County. And it kind of lends itself to that same kind of narrative where your smaller communities are going to have higher tax rates, where the larger communities that have more robust manufacturing and industrial property tax bases are going to have a lower rate. And so you'll see that Chan, Chaska, and Victoria are the 3 most populated cities. In essence, we actually fare better as that goes compared to Waconia, which is at least proposing at this point the 52.88, and we're at the 47.63.
We've come a long way with that.
So one of the new slides that we added this year is kind of an explanation of the homestead exclusion. I just wanted to show this. It gets a little wonky as far as how it's calculated, but we've kind of avoided this topic because it can get kind of detailed. But you have your estimated market value, which is traditionally what you think you could maybe sell your home for, but replacing the homestead credit is a homestead exclusion, and it only applies to homes that are, I think it's $476,000 or below, and so the county will do a calculation. So it's basically an effort by the state to reduce the liability that you'd have for your property taxes. So that calculation is done, and so that reduces out a $300,000 home. And I use $300,000 because we've kept talking about it, but I realize that if we don't show the homestead exclusion, it really doesn't give a clear picture of what a $300,000 home would pay. And so a $300,000 home actually is taxed at $289,900, and so there you can see the calculation. Their taxable market value times the 1% residential tax classification rate gets them to a tax capacity, and so that tax capacity multiplied by the tax rate, which is based on our levy and market value, gets to $1,380 for City of Carver property taxes. So 9 times out of 10, if you have a market value of $300,000, your property taxes should be pretty close to that $1,380 number. So one of the things that we like to do then is, look at that. I mentioned utility bills, Excel, at Centerpoint. So how would our bill look like? How would our property taxes look like a utility bill? And so for $1,380 a year, that reduces down to $115 per month. And then using our general fund expenditures and our percentages, we performed calculations on what monthly city services would look like in the form of a monthly bill. And so you can see street and parks, maintenance, et cetera, all kind of the public services stuff at $28 a month, loan payments, fire protection, police protection, and so on, arriving at that $115. But I think this is probably one of the best slides that we have that gives you a snapshot of how your property taxes are spent throughout the month and year. And then one of the other things that we annually do is look at a cross-section of homes. So we'll look at not just that $300,000 home, but look at homes throughout the community in different neighborhoods and how our proposed levy impacts those. So you can see we run the gamut from $125,000 all the way up to $452,000. We had 2 properties, at least in our cross-section here, that didn't have their market value adjusted, so they probably have the most true indication of how our levy impacts folks. So if your property value didn't change, you're about at a 3.9% reduction in your city property taxes. But you can also see the first property that had a 16.7% increase to their market value. Their city property taxes went up by 18% or $89, and so you can see kind of a range there. The red is to indicate a reduction, the black is an increase. So that concludes the presentation on the truth in taxation. This presentation is available on the city's website under the residence guide. We also have the line item budgets for the general fund, water, sewer, and stormwater available. And then we'd be presenting a proposed budget and tax levy to the City Council at your December 18th meeting. So I'll sit for questions.
The only question I have is if you could go back to where you calculate with tax capacity versus, back one more. If we could make that available very easily on our website, I think that would go a long way to having people understand. I think that's one of the best slides you've come up with in your tenure here. It's as simple as it gets and as self-explanatory as it gets, so I appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Merrick on truth and taxation? Well done.
No, it was a very good presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Succinct and to the point, I like that.
After 3 tries.
All right, so we don't need any action on that tonight.
Shall we close the public hearing?
We should close the public hearing on that. I would entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So, yep, no, I know. I just want to make sure the motion, no further action required. I just want to make sure we didn't have to keep going on that. We are now to commission appointments. We had the opportunity to interview 2 individuals today for the alternate position for the Planning Commission. And I would entertain a motion if anyone has one.
I'll make a motion to appoint Greg Riggs to the 2nd alternate position on the Planning Commission with a term ending March 1st, 2020.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I would like to thank both applicants. It's very nice. It's not something that we've had a huge part of, is having more than a few people interested, and man, is that appreciated. And for the record, the other individual is already a part of the HPC, so they are involved, and I think that's great to see. So any other further discussion? There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we are moving on. Other than the breakdown in social media, Really been a smooth meeting.
Social media?
I know, it's not social media, but
Technology?
we made it up into the social media aspect.
You're
I
going to
know.
be critical at
I was
least.
with you. I wasn't being critical. I was not being critical. I appreciate you putting that word in my mouth. I was not being critical. But now we are on to City Council communications. Monroe,
I don't think I have anything.
Johnson,
I don't think I have anything either.
Mark.
Brent mentioned that Courtney and I did attend the fire board meeting last.
You did have something.
Yeah. I think it went very well. We had a few comments from our representatives from the townships, and we'll be looking forward to our next meeting. And then we did have an additional HPC meeting, and we reviewed the updated version of the plans for City Hall. And overall, the HPC was incredibly pleased, and they did motion to move that along to the council. As we saw it, it was very nice.
Good.
Hank?
Got nothing.
Mr. Merrick, do you have anything? Are we meeting on the 20th? This isn't our final meeting before.
No, you'll meet 2 weeks from tonight on the 18th.
Right, 18th, thank you. All right, just want to make sure that we're still moving, and I didn't have to wish anybody a happy holiday beforehand. All right, I have nothing myself.
Make a motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all.